Good afternoon, Asheville family. Hello. My name is Brianna Kemp. I'm a national organizer with Repairers of the Breach and the Poor People's Campaign, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. Before we get started, we have interpretation available for today's program, so I'm going to invite Melissa Escobar up to give some instructions for that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Melissa Escobar, and I'm a Spanish certified interpreter from Western Carolina Interpreted Network. And I'll be, and Bonnie Schley, I'll serve you here, and we'll be providing interpretation services through this event. So if you need anything, please let me know, and we'll give you the equipment. Buenas tardes, me llamo Melissa Soto Escobar. Soy una intérprete certificada y trabajo en Western Carolina Interpreted Network, y vamos a estar proveyendo servicios de interpretación. Si necesita el equipo, estamos aquí. Bonnie Schley también es otra intérprete que va a estar prestando estos servicios durante este evento. Gracias.
Together, you shout, not one step back. Forward together. Not one step back. Forward together. Not one step back. Okay, reach way down for this one. Forward together. Not one step back. I don't know why, but I believe you. We're going to sing together a little bit, okay? Because singing kind of gets the energy flowing, right? We're going to start off with Woman's Song of Asheville. If you know them, make some noise.
Las palabras de John Lewis: no te pierdas en un mar de desesperación, ten esperanza, sé optimista. Nuestra lucha no es la lucha de un día, de una semana, de un mes o un año, es la lucha de toda una vida. Nunca, nunca tengas miedo de hacer algo de ruido y meterte en buenos problemas, problemas necesarios.
The lyrics of our song, Make Good Trouble, come from John Lewis. He wrote, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble."
Make good trouble, speak up and make good
I know I'm not the only one. I'm loud, and I'm a troublemaker. And so are you. This is wonderful. So this is the part where we create the Appalachian Justice Jump-In Choir. We got to move this along. So the first rule is pay me all the due. Well, no, that's not it. The first rule is that we stand together. And we stand together because we stand together. Only if you can stand, we ask you to stand at this time. And if you're near somebody who can't stand, you stand for them. But we stand with each other, okay? Let's start off with the song real quick. I have to do it just because I have to. Altos, sopranos, tenors, bass baritone. I only sing in the shower. Just like I thought. Okay, just like I thought. Okay, all right, so shower singers, we're joining in. Everybody's doing this together. We're gonna start off with a song that says, "This Little Light of Mine." We all know it, right? Let's see what kind of energy we can put into this, because when we come together, we create what we call collective effervescence. That's that bubbling over energy that goes all next to your neighbor, right? So that's what we want to create. Give it up for the band, right here from Asheville. Okay. This is right. Shine our lights for justice. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine our light for justice. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine our light for justice. I'm gonna let it shine. 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 Let it. Let me hear you. Come on, let it shine. Can we do that just 2 more times? Let it shine. Let it shine. Last time. Here we go. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Absolutely beautiful.
Let's remain standing for a second. Now, I'm actually calling an audible because I want to make sure the media and other people understand exactly why we're here. And so I want the folk behind me to grab these placards. I need about 20 more people to come up real quick. Organizer, I need y'all to help me. We have 24 and just line up all across. Everybody get one of these. Don't bring your own, I got this one. Bring about 20 folk. All right, I want you to turn them that way. I want everybody in your seats. if you can, with the placards you have, turn around that way. And I want them to focus on it. It says, unleashing the power, the voting power of poor and low-wealth voters in North Carolina. There are 3.2 million poor and low-wealth voters in North Carolina. 1 million did not vote in the last election. If just 19% of that would vote, it would outdistance any margin of victory in this state. We are here today at this congressional tour because we are determined to unleash the voting power of poor and low-wealth people, every race, creed, and color, and sexuality in this state. And what we say, let's say it together. Say if. Say if we ever needed to vote for democracy and justice. If we ever needed to vote for democracy and justice, we sure do need to vote right now, 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 vote right now, vote right now, vote right now, vote, 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 vote right now. How about that? Clinton, if you would, bring up that video, and then we're going to call the pastor on June 18th, bring it up, and then Miss Yard's going to come back in just a little bit. But I don't want anybody to be mistaken why we're here. We're not here to play. We're not here just to see each other. We're not just here fellowshipping. We're not sending this out to thousands of people. We are here because there's a battle going on for the soul of this democracy, and we don't intend to sit it out. That's why we're here.
Rejected by the politics of trickle-down economics and rejected by neoliberalism. Until children are protected, until sick folk are healed, until low-wage workers are paid, until immigrants are treated fairly, until affordable houses are provided, until the atmosphere, the land, and the water are protected, until saving the world and diplomacy and living in peace is more important than blowing up the world. We won't be silent anymore. If we've got to march, we'll march. If we've got to engage in nonviolent direct action, we'll engage. If we've got to build more tension with the media, if we have to ask workers to make election day a labor strike day, we'll do it. But until then, we won't be silent or unseen or
Hope comes from the bottom, from those most directly impacted by the profound evils of America. It's the poor, it's the low wage, it's the locked up, looked over and left out. It's those excluded and exploited who are the very social force who can change this society.
This is the consequences that we face. So what our people say is that we are fighting the oldest evil.
No matter how you call the holy, all of our sacred texts compel us to create a world in which there is enough for us all. From across a nation with unprecedented wealth that continues to legislate evil and ignore the least of these. We gather on these streets in the spirit of the prophet Amos, who declared, "Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the public square."
We heed the charge from the Holy Quran. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qist. O you who have believed, be persistent, standing firm in justice, witnesses for God.
When we violate the river, the soil, the mountain and tree, we violate the sources of life that God provided for all, not just a select few.
We lament a nation addicted to a war economy.
In the face of a distorted moral narrative of religious nationalism, we declare that silence is betrayal. We, all of us faith leaders, we will raise our cry and we will call for change, because nothing less would be a betrayal of our sacred commitment. Let us all say amen.
We're calling upon those who have ears to hear, tongues to speak, and hearts to respond, to join the movement to rid this nation of the evil and violence of poverty. I have been struggling to pay my bills since I've been working at 16 years old. I work full-time 64 hours a week, 7 days a week. I am exhausted. We are here today on behalf of every worker and every voter fighting for a government that works for all. We are here to protect voting rights. We are here to fight for immigration reform. As a teacher, I want a better future and planet for our children by addressing gun violence and working together to solving our climate crisis. There are poor and homeless veterans all over this country. We must stand together to demand an end to this war economy that benefits the wealthy at the cost of poor people's lives and health.
Our government finds it necessary to ban abortion, to say that they are saving our children. But more children die as a result of poverty in this country.
I'm here because I'm holding fast to that promise of freedom that our ancestors fought for. They were fighting for our ability to control our own bodies, to determine our own futures, to be the architects of our own destinies. And that's the fight that we're fighting right now. This system doesn't provide health care or living wages, but it wages chemical warfare. We should not be cornered and forced to choose one necessity over another.
I am here to tell you, incarcerated lives matter too. We are forgotten people. We are poor people. And we are suffering.
I have been faced with many challenges in my life due to a broken system that has a long history of punishing the poor while rewarding the corrupt, wealthy class.
If we treat these evils as distinct and isolated from one another, they will continue to undermine our solutions, seeping into this work like toxins, poisoning our progress.
When we think about the global climate crisis that threatens to push 100 million people into poverty by 2030, this is our moment.
So you have to ask yourself, are you an architect of this reconstruction? Will you be willing to do the work to build a stronger foundation and core to America?
It's time for us to stop being passive Christians. We gotta get up. We gotta get off those comfortable pews. We gotta get out of these churches. We gotta get out here. We gotta advocate for the least of these.
And so we stand on that principle in this country, that no matter where we live, no matter what my background is, no matter who I love, no matter what I can do, at the end of the day, I am deserving to be treated like a human being.
We decide to love, and when you love folk, you hate the fact that they're treated unjustly. You loathe the fact they're treated unfairly. And if
Come on, come on, come on. Don't you want to vote? Come on, come on, come on. Don't you want to vote all together? Yes, I'm going to vote. All right?
Bishop, it's good to welcome a fellow Christian Church Disciples of Christ pastor here.
Yes, sir.
When I first came, they'd never heard of the Christian church. I don't know. Welcome to First Congregational, a laid-back, staid, old church. We're glad to have you here, livening us up a little bit today. A just peace church, an open and affirming church. It is good to have you here. Straight folks are welcome too. Worship is at 10:30 in the morning. If you're not going to come, let me know why. Restrooms are right outside this door, and this is an exit that's open. Restrooms are downstairs, and this is an exit that is open. Once again, welcome to First Congregational United Church of Christ.
Thank you. Thank you. We're getting ready, just a minute, ladies. We're going to get ready for Bree to give some overlay after. She's going to do some overlay to let us know really why we're here. There are some statistics that we don't hear talked about enough. Even candidates aren't talking about them. But we must, because our lives and the lives of others whom we depend on, come on. You're right there in the 2 seats right over there. We want everybody speaking up. We believe in a whole lot of family, a whole lot of people. But we want to make this clear. We are not just here just to be here. There's power that we are yet to unleash. And Brianna's going to come and walk through some slides. Now, Pastor, I'm not sure that when some folks see this, you won't say, damn. Hopefully you will, but not the kind of damn that says, I'm just going to resign, nothing we can do. But the kind that says, I refuse.
Yes.
With my voice, with my votes, with my protests, with my organizing, to accept this kind of reality. If it exists, it's not going to exist without my moral dissent. And that's why we thank Leslie, the great team up here, and others who've been organizing. We're all the folk that's been organizing and on the ground to pull this day together. But this day is so much bigger than who's in this room. Raise your hand if you've been helping out. Great. Because we got thousands online. We're trying to reach. We're going to get some assignments today of things we want people to do. When we leave here, we're going to take this energy with us. We're going to hear from the most powerful and moral voices of our country, and that's folk that are impacted every day by the 5 interlocking injustices of systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, denial of health care, the war economy, and the false moral narrative, religious nationalism, and they still have hope and still fight for this country to be better. So Brianna, who's one of our national organizers, share with us the data that must drive our determination and our fight in this moment.
Thank you, Bishop. I want to make sure folks know, too, that we're here today as part of a statewide organizing and voter mobilization tour, where we've touched every congressional district through North Carolina to talk with and mobilize and organize with poor and low-wealth voters to make sure that our voices are heard at the ballot box in November. So we've been to Goldsboro and Greensboro and Winston-Salem and Wilson and Wilmington and Elizabeth City and live on the radio through several congressional districts, and we're wrapping up here in Asheville today. Yes, we've had many powerful partners in this tour, and thank you to everyone who did so much work to come together today. And we're on this tour because, as Bishop said, we understand that as poor and low-income voters, when we organize and mobilize to the polls together, not around a political party or a particular candidate, but around the issues that matter the most to us, we have an incredible amount of power. So I want to look at some numbers.
Brianna, and I want y'all to hear that because some of me here. We don't organize around a candidate, but we choose our candidates based on the issues, not how they look, not the kind of suit they wear, not how smooth their their ads are, but where did you stand on these critical issues?
That's right.
That's what we are nonpartisan, but we're not non-political. What we mean by that is we look at things through a moral lens, and we ask the serious question. Don't kiss my baby. Make sure my baby got some food, health care, and
That's right.
got a living wage.
So let's look at these numbers together. In the United States, there are 140 million poor and low-income people. And when you look at the breakdown of that number, we can tell that this spans across every race, across geography, every faith, gender. This is not a small number of us. There are many, many, many people, almost half of our country, struggling to make ends meet. It's 43% of adults living in the United States and 52% of our children. That's not right. Here in North Carolina, 44%, almost half, of North Carolinians are poor, low wealth, and low wage. That is 4.6 million people. Almost half of the workers here in North Carolina.
Go back and disaggregate those numbers.
Sure.
I want the news and everybody, go right down that line.
It's 53% of our children. That's 1.2 million children in this state. 46% of women, 58% of black people.
Give the numbers.
1.2 million, 67% of Latinx people, 699,000, and 36% of white people, 2.2 million across the state. 44% of workers in North Carolina, 2 million people, make less than 47% of North Carolina workers, 2 million people. He always tells us don't be loud and wrong, so I gotta be loud and right today. 2 million people make less than $15 an hour, less than a living wage. The minimum wage.
Let that settle for a second. I'm teaching Brianna how to be a Southern preacher. You got to let that settle. You got to give folks time to react. So you can't read over it like it's a commercial. You know how we have these TV commercials, and they'll say 5 people got killed, and go through a Coke commercial. And what it does is it desensitizes folks. Yes. Y'all didn't see what she said? 47% of North Carolina workers, that's 2 million people, make less than $15 an hour, 50% of North Carolina workforce, which means with just one vote that was blocked last year by 48 Republicans and 2 Democrats, one out of Arizona, one out of West Virginia, that one vote kept 2 million people in poverty and low wealth. And in our state, even though 79% of all North Carolinians want a living wage and a raise in their wage, we've not had a vote, not even a ballot initiative. If there's a level of righteous indignation you must hear so that when we leave these pews, we go into communities and inform people and let them know this is not because of people's problem. This is purely because of bad public policy. Right. And bad public policy comes from bad elected politicians. Yes.
We know the minimum wage of $7.25 is too low. And in this state, as of 2019, a living wage would be $24.80 an hour. At the minimum wage, it would take 94 hours of work per week to afford a 2-bedroom apartment.
And the same people that sometimes run for office and say, the woman ought to stay home and be with the children. Oh, yeah. And we are 94 hours working at a living wage, and you still may not be able to afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment. And what we say is check these folks' record. They want to be a U.S. Senator, they want to be a U.S. Congressman, we ought to be jamming them, where do you stand on this? And then we ought to be informing. You don't even have to tell people where they vote, who to vote for. Just tell them what they voted for.
That's right.
And let people make up their mind. But at least folk ought to know. Am I right?
Yes. That's right. That's right. The next slide, there are 1 million people in North Carolina who have no health insurance in a state that has refused to expand Medicaid.
Not okay.
32% of census tracts in North Carolina are at risk for being unable to afford water. And over 9,000 people in North Carolina are homeless as of 2018, but we know that conditions got worse for people during the pandemic. And as Bishop Barber said, these numbers are a result of policy, not bad personal choices, not poor money management, but policy and the failure of elected officials to pass policies that make sure people have what they need to survive. But look at our power when we vote together. 40% of eligible voters in North Carolina are poor, low wealth, or low wage. That's 3.4 million people. 80% of those people are already registered. That's almost 3 million that are already registered. But in 2020, 1.1 million eligible poor and low-income voters in North Carolina did not vote. This is why we're here today, because that 1.1 million people has an incredible amount of power when we are organized and we go to the ballot boxes together.
And we want to dispel a lie. We've done the research when they used to say, well, the reason is because poor and low-wealth white folk vote against their own interests. The truth is they don't. The data shows that. Last election, 54% of poor and low-wealth white voters voted for progressive. What we know, though, is that the data shows most poor and low-wealth people do not vote because of one thing. Nobody talks to them.
That's right.
They don't talk to them in the radio ads, TV ads, that nobody goes. We go to communities. We're canvassing now, and people are literally breaking down at the door, in tears. They said nobody has come to visit us and ask us anything for 40 years, 20 years, right? And I'm going to talk about that at the end, why that is. But that's power, y'all. And 1/3 of all poor and low-wealth people in this country live in the South. In North Carolina, it would only take 19%. She's going to show you some of that, but in some places, it's even less than that. And at some point, we have to decide what we have to do, not just what's being done to us.
That's right. If you look at this map, this looks at the margin of victory from the 2016 presidential election. In North Carolina, no race was won by more than a 19% margin, which means if just 19% more poor and low-wealth voters had gotten to the polls and cast their ballot, it could shift any race in this state. This is what we're doing here today.
That's 180,000 votes out of 1.1 million. That's all that is.
That's right. Here in Congressional District 11, of a total population of 770,311 people, there are 254,385 poor and low wealth people. That's 33% of the population here in this congressional district. That's an incredible amount of power that if we can reach those people and talk and organize and mobilize to the polls together, we can move toward that 19%.
And watch this. Go back to that slide. You see that one of the things we're saying to folks in this congression is go and check what the victory margin was for your person sitting in the United States Congress. I bet you nobody won up here over 30,000 votes. I bet you there are races up here where people got in the state Senate, state House, less than 3,000 votes. City Council. The margins are so small, yeah. And what is constantly happening, if you listen to corporate media oftentimes, is they don't even count poor people in. They keep telling people they're not going to turn out. And so then when people don't turn out, they say, see, well, we have to be a different kind of movement. We have to be.
That's right. These are the numbers, and it's important that we know and we understand all of these numbers. And what's most important here tonight is that we hear the voices of the moral leaders in this movement who are doing the work every day to organize together and make sure people get to the polls and make sure that we can have an impact. I'm going to ask Leslie Boyd and Evan Richardson, two incredible leaders here in the Asheville area, building the North Carolina Poor People's Campaign.
Somebody say, these numbers. Somebody say, these numbers. These numbers. Make us want to organize. Quentin, since we showed the long version, we'll go straight into the testifiers rather than showing each one of those testimonies. All right, so we'll do that next.
So, why do we depend on people to tell their stories? I'm Leslie Boyd. I'm co-chair of the Western Region along with Evan Richardson, and I've been telling my story for years. And as a journalist, as a retired journalist, I spent a career telling stories that explain public policy. This is what we're doing today. These stories are the numbers you've been listening to. Pay attention, because these are real people with real stories, and they don't deserve to live under bad public policy.
That's right.
So please listen carefully. Thank you.
Yeah.
And as Leslie mentioned, these stories are unique to these individuals, and they are tied to the stories of almost half of the people that live in this country. It is not okay. We are a moral movement.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
We stand here in this house of God to organize for the power that God puts in each of us. We are going to ask each of you, as you listen to these stories, to open your heart. And we, instead of applauding, are going to give lift to these voices by recognizing, as we've mentioned, the immoral injustice and the incredible power and the hope that they are bringing by sharing their stories. And so instead of clapping, we are going to ask you to join in. This is an incredible chant that gives me such, brings tears to my eyes. And we're going to practice this. Someone is hurting my brother.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Someone is hurting my sister.
Someone is hurting my sister.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Someone is hurting our families.
Someone is hurting our families.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And someone is hurting our children.
Someone is hurting our children.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
And Leslie and I will help you remember that. The first testifier is actually Vivian Henry, who is with the Minnesota Poor People's Campaign. And Vivian was a testifier at June 18th, Moral March and Assembly in DC. How many of you raise your hand if you were there with us? This is wonderful. We had a great showing from North Carolina and a bus from Asheville. And I just want to say that it was tens of thousands of people gathered in our capital to stand up for justice, to stand up and say, we are not taking it anymore and we demand justice. And so I'll step aside and let Vivian's voice.
My name is Vivian Henry. I'm from Minnesota. I'm one of the 1.8 million people in the state forced to live in poverty. I'm pissed as hell because I shouldn't have to be here today, because poverty is a policy choice in the richest nation in the world. I battle 4 mental health challenges that have been extremely debilitating in most of my adult life. For the past 7 years, I've had to battle many times for Social Security disability. I survive on just $585 a month from state general assistance and food stamps. If I didn't live in public housing, I would be homeless. General assistance wasn't raised during COVID and hasn't increased with inflation. Recently, I started donating plasma because I don't have enough money to meet my basic needs. This is immoral to be forced to live this way. The state of Minnesota has declared me disabled 3 times, but that doesn't automatically approve me for Social Security disability. This is asinine! How can I be declared disabled by the state only to have the federal government deny me benefits? I had breast cancer scare in 2018, and now I need a 3D mammogram and breast MRI each year for the rest of my life, but I fear losing my Medicaid due to the lack of consciousness of many politicians who could care less about whether I live or die. I'm here to say that if Congress can repeatedly afford to give corporate welfare to the rich, then Congress can afford universal health care for all. So that people don't go bankrupt or are forced to use a GoFundMe to cover medical expenses. Scarcity is a massive lie. This is why we're here. We won't be silent anymore.
Thank you. Give it up. Give it up. Somebody. They're hurting our people. And we won't be silent. Anymore.
Thank you. People who work for low wages, people who work in fast food restaurants, in retail, often don't have health insurance, usually don't make enough to live on, sometimes have to live with a number of roommates. And it's wrong. There's no reason this has to be. So now we're going to hear from Jamie Gunter from Raise Up the South. And Jamie's going to talk about living wages and union rights.
Hi, my name is Jamie Gunner. I'm a McDonald's worker, and I have worked at a lot of fast food restaurants, and I am a part of Raise Up. And we all have the same problems. We all demand, our demands are the same, mainly. We have the same problem all over these low-wage jobs. We don't get paid enough. Wage theft is happening everywhere. Sexual harassment's happening everywhere. We just got out of that, out of this one strike. So been there. Our jobs are unsafe. We have no voice on the job because we don't have a union, and we don't. A lot of people don't know that the unions exist. They don't know about us. They don't know about their rights. So even though we work at different places, we all have the same demands. That's why we are organizing to make a change.
That's right.
And that's why we need to vote. Now, when we get to voting, I have never voted. I'm not going to lie, I have never voted. But since I joined Raise Up, I'm voting. I didn't know how important it was. So I'm going to vote this year. But the things that the way that we could organize, or the way that we could, because here is the elected officials have the power to change. They could raise the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. But I make $16 an hour, and I can't even afford my medicine.
That's right, that's right.
I gotta choose between medicine or food, or if my son needs anything.
That's right.
And sometimes I go without my heart medicines, you know? I'm on 14 different kinds of medicines. I can't afford all of them. I don't have no health insurance, no Medicaid, no insurance, because my job cut our hours so they don't have to provide insurance.
That's right, that's right.
So they could make companies treat us fairly. They can make it easier for us to form unions. They could expand Medicaid.
That's right.
So I could, they expand the Medicaid so I could afford my medicines. But I will start voting. I've already made my mind up. It is important to vote, so everybody needs to go vote.
Thank you. Let's thank our sister and them for their honesty. And since this is a teaching, did you hear what she said? They cut our hours so they won't have to give us insurance. She said, I make 16. That's why we say 15 is a minimum living wage. But we say that ought to be the minimum wage. And that was the $15 was asked for in 1963 in the March on Washington. Right now, you know why we have an inflation problem? They won't talk about it. 2 reasons. All of the tax cuts to the corporation, which allows them to dump so much money into the economy for their own personal gain, that it drives things up. And then people not being able to survive in inflation because they don't have a living wage. If you want to deal with inflation, you got to raise taxes on corporate wealth. And you have to raise wages for it. It's simple. It's economic 101. And we got it back, which is why we always ebbing and flowing, ebbing and flowing. Joseph Stiglitz, a renowned Nobel Peace economist, said it like this. He said, too often when we start talking about wages and health care, some politician will get up and say, well, how much will it cost? Wrong question. How much does it cost not to do those things?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Our next speaker is Nikita Smart, who is a community doula and co-founder of Sisters Caring for Sisters.
Hi, my name is Nikita Smart, and I'm one of the co-founders for Sisters Caring for Sisters. And you know, when I was asked to do this, one thing I didn't know was what the core values of reproductive justice were. So I'm going to share them with you because I had to know them for myself. So the core values of reproductive justice are the right to have a child, the right to not have a child, and the right to raise your child in a safe environment. Well, currently all those things are at risk for us. So as a doula, and as a doula for Sisters Caring for Sisters, I'm going to encourage you to do the things that we encourage our moms to do. And that is to do your research. Like Reverend Barbara said, don't go on how their looks. Go on what their values are. Go on what they're doing and how long they've been doing it. Make an informed choice, because the only way that this is going to solve itself, and not solve itself because it takes a village, is with informed choice. So if you're out here and you know how important this is, I need you, when you walk into those polls, to think that America's daughters, America's granddaughters, sisters, aunts, all of those are at risk for reproductive justice.
That's right.
If we don't stand and fight for this now, I like to say, is there anybody familiar with the Hulu show Handmaid's Tales? If we don't stand and fight for this now, America is headed towards Handmaid's Tales. So when you take those decisions, when you're making those decisions to vote, just please make sure your choices are informed.
Hurting our sisters. And it's gone on far too long.
And it's gone on far too long.
And we won't be silent.
And we won't be silent.
Or unseen anymore.
Or unseen anymore. Here to speak today about immigration rights is Ricardo Bello Ball of Unidex WNC.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Ricardo Bello. Emigré a los Estados Unidos en el 2001 en busca de una oportunidad de trabajo. Como millones, crucé el desierto para poder lograrlo, porque una visa nunca fue una opción. Decidí establecerme en el oeste de Carolina del Norte gracias a que a una amiga del colegio me recibió en su departamento y orientó para poder tramitar mi licencia de manejo. 3 años más tarde, escuchamos que las licencias desaparecerían para los inmigrantes indocumentados y que también entraría una nueva ley llamada 287G, donde la policía podía actuar como agente de migración.
Hello all, my name is Ricardo Bello. I immigrated to the United States in 2001, looking for job opportunities. Like millions, I crossed the desert to achieve this, because a visa was not an option. I decided to establish myself in Western North Carolina, thanks to a school friend who hosted me in her apartment and helped me to get my driver's license. 3 years later, we heard that the driver's license were gonna disappear for undocumented immigrants, and that a new law called 287G was gonna go into effect, and through which the police was gonna act as immigration agents.
La preocupación de la comunidad fue grande y se convocó para que saliéramos a marchar en contra de estas leyes. La gente que asistía a estos eventos era más grande a los grupos de gente que promovía la ley que afectaba gravemente a nuestra comunidad. La ley pasó y con ella perdimos la oportunidad de manejar libremente a través de las carreteras del país, además de tener un departamento de policía trabajando como agentes de migración. Las injusticias se hacían presente día a día.
The preoccupation in the community was huge, and we were encouraged to march against these laws. The people that was going to these events was bigger, these groups were bigger than the people who were promoting these laws that were gonna affect our community. The law passed, and with it, we lost the opportunity to drive freely in the roads of this country. Also, now we had a police department working like immigration agents. The injustices were present day after day.
¿Pero qué había pasado? ¿Cómo un pequeño grupo había sido escuchado y un grupo más grande totalmente ignorado? La respuesta fue fácil. Las personas que pidieron que se hicieran estos cambios hicieron escuchar su voz a través del voto. Voto que los legisladores del Estado escucharon porque estaban interesados en recibirlo. 21 años después, tengo la oportunidad por primera vez de votar en favor de leyes que incluyan y no dividan, de votar por legisladores que sumen y no resten, de votar para buscar un camino a la legalización que beneficie a millones que aún viven en la oscuridad. Por eso les pido que alcen su voz conmigo a través de su voto. Y si no puedes votar, anima a quien puede hacerlo, especialmente a nuestra gente joven. En estas próximas y futuras elecciones, vota.
But what had happened? The minority was heard and the majority was ignored. The answer was easy. The people who wanted these changes, they did that through voting. Voting that the legislators heard because they were interested in receive this. 21 years later, I had for the first time the opportunity to vote in favor of laws that include and not divide, to vote for legislators that add and not subtract, to vote to find a pathway to legal immigration that will benefit millions that live in the dark. That's why today I raise my voice and I ask you to raise your voice with me through your vote. And if you can't vote, encourage people to vote, especially our young people. In these next elections, vote.
It's hurting immigrants.
It's hurting immigrants.
It's gone on far too long.
And it's gone on far too long.
And we won't be silent.
And we won't be silent.
Or unseen anymore.
Or unseen anymore. Yes. Thousands are listening to us online, and we're pushing this out everywhere. Mobilize for it.
This next speaker, 13 years old, 8th grader at Irwin Middle School and a member of the Umoja Health and Wellness and Social Justice Collective's HOPE program, Julia Derry.
Julia!
Grand evening, everyone. My name is Julia Darity, and I'm here to make a statement for the youth so we can be heard, and some changes need to happen. So, if you've heard me speak before, you know that I am very big on mental health and how we need to make more programs and organizations for kids my age, because it's a big thing and it is happening. And I've struggled with it for a little bit, and I can say that I didn't get the help I needed until I found Umoja, a place that makes me feel comfortable enough to say what is on my mind. And I also wanted to speak about how school plays a big part in mental health and the jail system, because school can make you feel like you don't have a choice in your future. Especially because I know some teachers or principals have stereotypes, meaning, all thugs were this, or all thieves were this, and they tell you what your future is going to be. They tell you that you're going to grow up as a gangster. They tell you this, they tell you that, but they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to guide you so you can make the choices for the future. So when you grow up saying or listening that you're going to be that way, you are. You're going to grow up that way, and that's going to put you in the jail system. So I want to say that we did not ask to be in this world. So if you are going to bring us here, make sure that we want to be here. Make sure that we're safe and comfortable. So choose wisely on how you vote, because your future, or our future, is in your hands. And y'all need to vote, because we can't. So.
Somebody is hurting our children. And we won't be silent.
We won't be silent.
Or unheard anymore. Amen. In July, we got some good news, a court decision that allows people who previously were convicted of felonies and are now out of jail to vote.
Yeah.
but there are still many people who are disenfranchised. And we're going to ask Michael Hayes to talk about that.
So first of all, let me say this. I am one of the people that Julie was talking about who didn't have access to mental health to talk about those things that I went through, the traumas that I went through when I was 8 years old on up to 20 when I was first incarcerated for 10 years. And then I had to do 4 years of that. And when I got out, trying to go to school to better my life, but I couldn't get a Pell Grant because I had a Class D felony. Right, so my life started this cycle of me going in and out of prison, because the system wasn't designed to give me what I needed because I was a felon. So I ended up being what Julia talked about, those who didn't have an opportunity to talk about it, to be about it, teachers telling me I wouldn't be nothing. Yeah, so it was me in and out of prison 5 different times, but I'm free now. Yeah. And not only am I free now, I also work with those who are still incarcerated, coming out of incarceration, those before they go into incarceration, so they won't even think about going into incarceration. But see, now we got an opportunity to vote. Those who have been in, those who immediately come out. I got a brother that's coming out tomorrow. When he comes out tomorrow, he gets to vote on Monday. There's no more waiting, because we can't afford to wait. See, I think we have this thing kind of messed up because I've been in prison 5 times. Some of y'all think y'all story don't look like mine. Your trauma might look different. What you went through might look different. Where you suffered it might look different. But we're still supposed to be on the same page, because right now something's got to change, and it doesn't have to be for my benefit. It has to be for Julia's benefit. You see us with these shirts on, and it says hope for the future. That means healing our personal and past experiences for our future. You got the United States got a lot of healing to do, because there's been a lot of trauma that's been passed on. But see, now for our people that's in the criminal justice system, there are a lot of organizations and a lot of people that's like, okay, enough is enough. It's more than your motion. You got Philip Cooper with exactly. You got the Second Chance Alliance that's here with Brent. We got my brother Steve working with people that my daddy taught me that, so the young people won't get involved in the justice system. So we have this opportunity to prevent those things from happening, but I still get judged for what I used to do. And not just by the people that are here. I'm talking about by politicians, by those who are in control, because even though it says I can vote and my vote can count, I run a nonprofit organization, and I run a nonprofit organization that actually hires, I got like 60% of my staff are involved in the criminal justice system. Hold up, 90% of my youth are involved with the justice system. If it's not them directly, it is their parents. So if we don't vote to have people in that can understand what resiliency looks like, that can understand what trauma looks like, that can understand that being poor, being of a low-wealth community is a form of trauma, then we cannot change the trajectory of the 90% of the children that are in my program that's involved with the justice system. I'm 55. I don't have insurance. Half of my staff, none of my staff make over $20 an hour. Because the way I'm looked at when I go in to go get a grant, oh, Michael, you've been to prison, you've been a bad boy. So we change the people that are in there making that decision. We organize to make sure that they understand, like policy has to change to give a brother like me a chance, so that I can give a young woman like Julia Doherty all the chances that she needs to be as great as she can be, so she can walk in her greatness, and then she'll be the policy maker, and I'll be all right then. Let's vote, baby, let's vote.
Brother said, I'm free. And I don't think he was just talking about from behind bars. Free to be a man, free to speak the truth, free to call a lie, free to say that the lie of scarcity is a lie. The lie that we don't know what to do to address these, address these issues is a lie. And the reality is, we know what to do. The issue is having a movement that pushes us as a nation to have the moral consciousness to do what must be done. When you get that kind of freedom, My grandmama used to say, can't no jail, even in a grave, hold you down. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, brother. Hey, let's thank all of our testifiers. And we thank them because, that's right. That's right, we thank them because telling the truth in a time of lies is revolutionary in and of itself. Telling the truth in a time of lies is revolutionary in and of itself. Now, this young sister said, vote because I can't. What she's really saying is, if you don't vote and people hurt me, then you become an accessory to the crime. My other brother sister said, I have not voted, but now that I've got involved and I understand the importance of it, I'm out here. No shame in that. Sister, there's some people that know the importance and don't vote. So I'm glad you know the importance. When you knew it, you decided. You decided to act. You decided to say, I'm gonna do everything, not some things. If it needs fighting for legislation, I'm gonna fight for legislation. If it means protest, I'm gonna protest. If it means civil disobedience, I'm gonna do civil disobedience. If it means voting, I'm gonna vote. If it means preaching, I'm gonna preach. We don't do one thing for justice. We do everything we can in the nonviolent tradition for justice because we will not settle for anything than justice coming. Somebody says, but sometimes it's a long time coming. Well, that's right, but it's a long time for you to get old, but ain't you glad you stayed a long time? Just because it takes a long time doesn't mean it's not worth fighting for. Right. It means it is worth fighting for. You know, we talk about things like this. Some of our history is so abbreviated. Some people say Rosa Parks sat down. No, she didn't. Rosa Parks was investigating rapes of black women long before she sat down on the bus. There were young folk, this child's age, that sat down. The first person that sat down was a young girl, 13, 14 years old, that had gotten pregnant out of wedlock, and the bougie folk didn't want to support her. We talk about Edmund Pettus Bridge. Long before John Lewis or Dr. King ever got there, the women in Selma had been fighting since the 40s. The first action was not March of 1965. It was in 1963 when Diane Nash and her husband refused to go to the March on Washington. Diane Nash was upset because they wouldn't let any women speak. Her husband was upset because the original plan for the March on Washington was not to go and have a day of action and speaking. It was to have a week of civil disobedience. And some organizations said, no, that's too radical. Wasn't Dr. King, I'm not gonna say who it was, but it wasn't King and it wasn't SCLC. And so Diane Nash and her husband said, we're going to Selma to start organizing. Bernard Lafayette said, when you went to Selma in the civil rights movement, they saw that as you going to die because nothing good was supposed to come out of Selma. They didn't just march one time. There were numerous gatherings. The first march, when they got beaten, it wasn't 1,000 people. It might have been 200. You got to look at the pictures real close. They did something that you learn in civil rights organizing. When you don't have but 100 folk, don't bunch them up. Let them walk 2 by 2 and spread them out 10 feet apart, and then it looks like. Go look at the pictures, y'all. The first march in Birmingham was only 58 people. It grew. Folk didn't come to the March on Washington because Dr. King was speaking. They came because there were 600 cities and counties where people were actively engaged. Sometimes it is a long time coming. It's not long in the train of history. It's just long because there are forces against what we're trying to do. But that's okay. Hang in there. Long suffering is a gift. Long suffering is a necessary part of fighting for justice. It took us 20 years in North Carolina fighting Democrats to get same-day registration, early voting. But guess what? We got it now. Now we have to use it. In 2013, after the Shelby decision, they went after it and tried to take it away. It took us 6 years of litigation. We filed the case 47 minutes after they signed the ink on the monster voter suppression bill. I was president of NAACP at that time. We filed a bill, North Carolina NAACP, against McCory, but we didn't file a not a bill, we filed a lawsuit, but it wasn't a black lawsuit. We had women plaintiffs, we had white plaintiffs, we had Latino plaintiffs, we had churches, we had students. It was the first time in history that a civil rights piece of voting legislation didn't just focus on the impact of black people. It focused on black people and then expanded it to show the collateral damage on all people. They spent $6 million of your money, the legislature did, fighting. You know how I knew we were gonna win? The day we were in court in Winston-Salem, and there were 3 judges there, 1 black, 2 white. And in the middle of the court case, this white guy from South Carolina asked the chief if he could say something. He said, "May I say something, Mr. Chief?" I said, "Oh Lord, we in trouble now." And I was wrong for doing that, because I judged him by the sound of his voice and did not wait for the substance of his words. He looked right at the lawyers for the voter suppression bill and said, "I just have one question to ask. Why y'all don't want people to vote?" And the room, I said, "Ooh, we just won." Because that's the question. Why in the world, in a democracy, are you trying to undermine people's right to vote? And that judge from South Carolina was one of the ones that voted that the state had engaged in racism with surgical precision. And we won. We just won after years of fighting to restore felons their right. Didn't come easy, but this year we won, and now 56,000 former felons have their right to vote. 56,000. And watch this. If that 56,000 organizes themselves in a block, remember, we've had races in this state for governor that weren't but 10,000 vote margins. Power. But it didn't come easy. It didn't come easy. 1,200 of us got arrested. It didn't come easy. But that's part of the point I want to make here today. Since it didn't come easy, we ought not let it slide without using everything we have won and making sure that everybody knows what the victories are. I want to get quickly to Brianna and folk talking about what we need folk to do after we get here, after we leave here, because we need some folk to go knock some doors and make some calls and some things. But I want to say just a few things. First of all, voting is a moral gift from God. Make no mistake about it. Voting is not something given to us by human forces. If you read the narrative in the Hebrew Bible, from the very beginning, God gave humanity the right to choose. That's a vote. And in Hebrew, the word for vote and voice is the same word, koil. K-U-O-Q-U-O-L. Most of the time it's used when it reflects when the prophets say, "and the voice of God." It means, and the vote of God, and the voice of God. So voting is a moral gift. And anybody that tries to undermine the right of vote, somebody's vote, is ultimately saying, you're not a human being. That's why you can't let it slide. It's not just a political thing. You see, we only give the right to vote to persons who are 18 years or older, born or naturalized in these United States of America. We don't give the right to vote to pets, parrots, and parakeets and puppies. So when you try to undermine somebody's right to vote, you're suggesting they're not a person. They've not been made in the imago Dei, the image of God. So ultimately, to deny the right to vote, to suppress the right to vote, is sin. Not only that, voting is a gift from history. Every group except for white men with land had to fight for the right to vote. Women couldn't vote. Indigenous people couldn't vote. Black people couldn't vote. In this democracy, it has had a sickness from the beginning. Everybody, except for white men with land, had to fight for the right to vote. You don't struggle for something, and then once you get it, refuse to use it. One writer said, I vote because blood flows from the pen. The ballot is sealed with the flesh of the ancestor. Mega stands in watch as I fulfill my right. Death stalked and took warriors in the fight. Ones who fought dogs and black badgers, sworn to serve and protect, but not me, not me. I will march to the polls like they march to win the right. Voting is also a constitutional guarantee. You said, where is it? Well, 14th Amendment, everybody must be provided equal protection under the law. So if some groups can vote and others can't, if some are suppressed and others aren't, that is a violation of the 14th Amendment. The 15th Amendment says no one, no state, no entity, no government can abridge or deny the right to vote. It's not that you can't just deny my right to vote, you can't abridge my right. And the word abridge means you take the bridge out. It means like if there's a bridge that gets me from here to there, Pastor, when you abridge something, it means you remove the bridge. Article 6 of the North Carolina State Constitution talks about the right to vote. And it's never said they have a right to vote if they have money. They have the right to vote if they can pay for a voter ID. They have the right to vote. We've always said signature attestation is all you need. You sign your name and declare that if you're lying and somebody catches you, it's a felony. It's hard enough to get people to vote to think you're gonna get folk to lie and risk a felony to try to forge somebody else's name. It doesn't even make sense. But also, Nika Giovanni said it when she talked about the vote. She said it's not a hug or a toy at Christmas. It's not a colored egg at Easter or a bunny hopping across the meadow. It's a vote. It says you are citizens. Though sometimes it's a traveling and sometimes a no. It can be made male or female. It can be right or left. It can disagree. Excuse me, I can disagree, but I'm a citizen. I should be able to vote from the prison. I should be able to vote from the battlefield. I should be able to vote when I get my driver's license. I should be able to vote when I purchase a gun. I should be able to vote when I'm in the hospital. I should be able to vote when I'm in an old folks' home. I should be able to vote if I need a ride. It's a vote. I'm a citizen. It's a vote. It's a vote. But lastly, and I want Bree to begin to come up, voting is a guaranteed way, let me have that T, it's a guaranteed way to shift public policy. Voting is, it's not the only thing you do, but it's got to be one of the things you use if you're serious about shifting public policy. You cannot say you want to shift public policy and then stay out of electoral politics. It ain't the only thing. And you shouldn't only get involved when it's voting, and if you lose the vote, you go home, because you can still protest, you can still fight, you can still change. And sometimes we protest, you can win, make folk who don't support your issue have to support your issue because you change the political context. But you have to vote. And the extremists know that. Let me read something that Dr. King said. And if you hear this closely, you will understand why everything that's happening now was planned. Everything. Trump, January 6th, 20-some states passing voter suppression. None of this started with Trump. Trump, and you got to get off Trump a little bit. We're giving him too much credit. And if you don't get off of him, you miss it. You think, well, if you get Trump out of office, everything is fine. Trump is kind of like what comes out of your nose when you have the pneumonia or the flu. It's the symptom. Yes, I said that. Because racism is that too. It's a symptom. Meanness is that, it's a symptom. Hatred is a symptom of something deeper. Right? Folk tearing down the Capitol, that's a symptom of something. Listen to what Dr. King said in 1965. He said, it may be said of the Reconstruction era that the Southern aristocracy took the world and gave the poor white man Jim Crow. And when his wrinkled stomach cried out for the food that his empty pockets couldn't provide, he ate Jim Crow. He was given Jim Crow. Given Jim Crow. Segregation was created to segregate the Southern mind, segregate the Negro, make people stand against one another. And then Dr. King said, standing at the end of the Edmund Pettus march, at the end of the Selma to Montgomery March, he said, you must understand, whether it was during the first Reconstruction in 1800 or the second Reconstruction in the 1960s or our fight today for a third Reconstruction, Dr. King said, the threat of the free exercise of the ballot by the masses of poor Negroes and the masses of poor white folk coming together is the great fear of the aristocracy in this nation. It is the great fear, because that is the voting bloc that could fundamentally shift the economic architecture of the nation. If you understand this, and then you understand one more piece, here it is, one more piece. In 1967-68, Kevin Phillips advised Richard Nixon that the Republican Party could win without Negro votes. But they had to paint the Democratic Party as the Black Party. Phillips predicted a new American revolution coming out of the South and the West because of the fears and objections raised by the Civil Rights Movement, the women's movement, the peace movement, and the gay movement. Buchanan and his Nixon aide colleague Kevin Phillips said, we must figure out how to engage in positive polarization. I'm reading this from the footnote, the book called This Time of Illusion. We must figure out how to intentionally and consistently divide particularly white and black folk from one another. Appalachia from eastern North Carolina. We got to do this. If we do it for political advantage, we can win for the next 50 years. This is 68, 69, 70. You find this in a book by Jonathan Shell written in 1976 called A Time of Illusion. Buchanan went on to say, what we have to do is cut the Democratic Party in half and cut the country in half. And if we do that, we'll get the better half. He said, if we do this, even ethnics in the North will turn to us because they don't like the Negroes who run the Democratic Party either. And they don't like progressive whites. Phillips said, if we do this, from Maryland to Arizona will become a new base of the Republican Party. We can persuade Southerners and Southwesterners to join us. We can pick up some folk in the Midwest and in the breadbasket. And then Howard Dent said, and if they catch us, they'll disavow it publicly. That's the root. It's not Trump. Trump inherited a plan. He charismatized the plan. He financed the plan. And it's not just him, it's many others. This is not new. It's a strategy. Lee Atwater talked about it before he died. He said, what you do is you don't say things that sound racist, you say things that sound economic, like tax cuts and entitlements. But the way you talk, they become code words for blaming other folk. You remember what Tupperville did the other day down in Alabama? They just want our stuff. And you get pit people against each other who need each other. And what happens in the midst of that, they don't increase living wages for white folk or black folk. They don't increase health care for white folk or black folk or brown folk. What they do is increase corporate profits. And they play on people's fears. Now here's what I come to say, and I'm through. We got here in this country because of a plan. an intentional deconstruction plan. That's how we got here. We got here, Bree, because some folk decided to intentionally split us. They didn't want to get all of us either. They said, if we can get 30%. I come to tell you in Appalachia and all of this country that when you know the tactics of your adversary, you can overcome them. Because if you can intentionally split the nation, you can intentionally pull it together. If you can show people that the same people fighting a woman's reproductive rights are the same people fighting living wages, are the same people fighting health care, are the same people fighting voting rights, are the same people fighting environmental justice, are the same people fighting against public education, and say to folk, if they are cynical enough to be together, can't we be smart enough to come together? If their plan works, our plan can undo their work, and we might even win some of them in the process. If they split us, we can seal us. If they cause a division, we can bring back the unity. If we decide that we're not going to silo our issues. That's why in the Poor People's Campaign, Repairs of the Breach, we say there are 5 of them: systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, denial of health care, the war economy, and the false moral narrative of religious nationalism. Somebody asked me, Reverend Barber, you black, what you fighting for? All of them. They asked Leslie, you white, what you fighting for? All of them. Because what I know, that if I can't pay my light bill and I'm black, and you can't pay your light bill and you white, if your lights go off, we all black in the dark, we better figure out how to get the lights on. And we can get the lights on if we come together. Everything they divided, we can bring back together. And God has fixed it so we don't even have to get everybody. Lord have mercy, just 19%. Touch your neighbor and say, can't you get 19%? Can't we get one out of every 5? If we can just get 20% to come together, we can close the split. We can seal the split. But we got to talk straight. We got to talk right. You say, well, the politicians aren't saying what they ought to say. Well, I got a news for you. Most of the time, politicians aren't going to say it till you make it necessary to be said. That's just the nature. Even the ones you like. The consultants tell them, don't talk about this, don't talk about this. But in Moral Monday, we used to say, make them hear you. Huh? You don't wait for them to hear you, you make them hear you. You talk straight. Somebody say, talk straight. You say to somebody that you tries to use abortion as a wedge issue, you say, go somewhere and shut up. Because now some of you may genuinely believe in life, but a lot of these politicians, they don't believe in life. Don't believe in life, because how can you say you believe in life and you don't want a girl that was raped or a woman that was raped to have an abortion, but then you abort health care, you abort living wages, you abort... Talk to me, somebody. We need some straight talk. We need a group of folk that are saying, we're sick of the division. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, it was a plan and a plot, but it stops with us. Howard Thurman used to say, you know your own strength by the kind of attacks your enemy brings against you. He said, you know how strong you are by measuring how hard they have to fight you. And so in order to stop the unity and progressivism in this country, they had to lie and cheat and go all the way over in Russia and get some false information and then get a lying-failed businessman and all of that stuff. If they had to have to do all of that, if they have to pass voter suppression law in every state, that is not a sign of our weakness, that is a sign of our strength. And we need to stop bowing our heads down and go to work. Go to work. Tillis, when he won for Senate, only won by less than 15% of the vote, 50% of the vote. Obama, when he won, only won by 14,000 votes. Governor Cooper won by 10,000 votes. Sherry Beasley lost by 400 votes. Somebody just said we have 1 million poor and low wealth voters who have not been voted. I come out of a tradition that says two things. One is what God told Moses when they came out of Egypt and the people got scared because they had to work a little bit, because sometimes, well, you mean we gonna have to work to save this democracy? Hell yeah, you're gonna have to work to save this democracy. It's not just gonna be handed to you. You can't just talk about what your mama did. It makes no difference if your mama and your grandmama and your granddaddy went to the March on Washington. You're gonna have to march now, baby. You're gonna have to organize now. You're gonna have to register folk now. And so the people got all hot, and Moses got scared, and Moses said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. In other words, watch God fix it. And God said, I didn't tell you to say that. That's not what I told you to say. He said, Moses, what's in your hand? And Moses said, a rod. He said, well, then stretch out your rod. Use your rod. Put your rod to work and watch the reed or the Red Sea open up. I stopped by to ask Mountain Moral Monday, Mountain Poor People's Campaign, do you have a vote in your hand? Do you have a vote in your hand? Do you have a ballot in your hand? Well, let's find everybody we know to use what's in our hands. And then the last thing is, Jesus found a guy one day. He had been laying beside a pool, and he was sick. He'd been sick 38 years. Kind of like us, we've been sick of this Southern strategy for more than 30, 40 years. And Jesus went to the man laying there and said, do you want to be made whole? You want to get up? Am I in the book, Pastor? That's what he said. He said, you want to be made whole? And the man started making excuses. The man said, well, I ain't got nobody to put me in the water. Because about once a year, an angel comes by and we get to vote whether or not we want to be healed. Once a year we get to vote, but I don't have nobody put me over there in the water. Now, I believe two things went through Jesus' mind. One of them, Jesus lived by the inch principle. If you inched every day for an inch, if you did 365 inches, you'd already be at the edge of the pool, ready to fall in when it was voting time. Translation, you can't just organize when it's an election. You got to organize all the time. And then I think Jesus even said to him, look, all y'all are sick. So why don't all y'all start inching together? Why don't all of y'all grab each other's hand and grab each other's arm and just start pulling each other together? Instead of laying in your misery, why don't you organize in your misery? Instead of wallowing in your pain, why don't you fight through your pain? And then the third thing I think Jesus said was, I ain't asked you if nobody gonna help you. I asked you, do you want to be made whole? I haven't asked anybody around this country, and I'm not going to ask for, are the Democrats going to help you? Are the Republicans going to help you? Are suddenly extremists going to have a change of heart? Is the corporate world going to just somehow gain some form of benevolence that they're going to back up? You know, they told Manchin not to vote for voting rights and told him not to vote, for the John Lewis bill and not to vote for living wages. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce did that. That ain't the question. The question is, do we want to be whole? Do we want an America that works for everybody? Do we want to see an end to racism and poverty and the denial of health care? Do we want to see it? Let me tell you what Jesus said to the man. If you want to see it, start organizing your mattress. Just start picking up and acting like you're going to fight for what you want. And watch as you organize, healing come. I stopped by to tell you, to ask you, do you want to see a healed North Carolina? Then let's get up and let's get out. Let's get up and let's get out. Let's get up and get out to vote. 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 Let's get up and get out to vote and watch God take our little and make it much. God always has, and God still will, but we have to do what we have the ability to do. And we've got the ability to turn this state out and to turn it upside down. Right here from Western North Carolina, Appalachia can make a sound. In 2014, Appalachia was the only district in America that sent an incumbent Tea Party home. In 2014. If you did it in 2014, you can do it in 2020. Let's go to work. You can do it in 2022. Get up and get out this vote. Get up and get out this vote. Get up, get up, get up, get up, and get out this vote.
I think our work for the next 16 days is pretty clear. What do you think? I don't know about you, but I'm gonna do what Julia told me to do. And I'm gonna vote so that my 2 kids and Julia and all your kids and our communities don't have to keep fighting these same fights again and again and again. Evan, come up here and join me. So, we're going to ask everyone to do a few things tonight. We have some volunteers who are going to be walking around right now handing out pledge cards and pens. Please make sure you take a pledge card. This is how we are going to get in touch with you after tonight. A few simple things. I'm a slow, okay. Let me slow it down.
So when you take up the offering, you got to give over time.
We're going to give some time. All right, all right. We're going to give some time to fill out these pledge cards. And while you're doing that, I want to remind you of a few things. One, we got to make sure we're all registered. If you are not, it is not too late. There is same-day registration even during early voting, which is happening right now. Make sure you have a plan to vote. Are you early voting? Are you going on election day? Make sure you've got a plan and a ride. And make sure that your family, your friends, your community, your neighbors, everyone you know is registered and also has a plan. On the next slide, there's a website that you can go to if you are looking for information about registration, about early voting. It is happening right now. It started Thursday and goes through Saturday, November 5th. Right now, tomorrow, we could all go vote. And then spend the next 16 days taking our family and friends to vote. So there's a website there that you can find for more information. The next thing we need you to do is fill out this pledge card. And Evan is going to talk a little bit about the 3 main things we are all going to do together for the next 16 days. And the way that we are going to give you the information on how to connect with these opportunities is from the info on that pledge card. So fill it out while you're listening to Evan, and then you're also going to get a handout on the way out tonight that gives a little more detail about where we're canvassing and doing all these things. So Evan, tell us how to get involved.
Absolutely. So you're going to sign up to knock on doors. What was it that Reverend Barber said is the reason why poor and low wealth workers don't vote? Nobody talked to them. So you can actually, and if you can't do it, you can actually ask other people, ask 10 other people you know to get involved, to knock on doors and canvass, text banking, and phone banking. Text banking, National Poor People's Campaign text banking. You can sign up every day. We have 18 days to get out 19% and make a difference in this state. You can sign up multiple times a day to text bank. The Poor People's Campaign, the National Text Bank, has already reached 3 million poor and low wealth voters in focus states, including North Carolina. So you can be part of that. You can sign up to Canvass starting tomorrow, and there's a contact number on the sheet that you're going to get when you walk out today. Almost every day between now and the 3rd of November. Come on out. We're going to go out in pairs. You'll get training, you'll have information, and talk to people. Get out of your comfort zone. It makes a difference. And then Carolina Jews for Justice and the Unitarian Church has 2 more days of phone banking on the 27th and the 3rd of November. And so you can sign up to join them. And again, if you can't do these 3 things, find 10 people who can. And even if you can do these 3 things, find 10 people who can. We have 18 days to get out 19% of poor and low wealth voters so that we can put an end to the policy violence. And on the back side of this handout also, thanking all of the partners who came together to help with the planning and the outreach for this event. We are stronger together in this fight for justice. We are so grateful. The North Carolina Poor People's Campaign, Repairers of the Breach, is grateful to all of you who showed up for Zoom calls, got the word out, came here to volunteer, and helped make this event and the Get Out the Vote efforts a success. Thank you so much.
Hold on your pledge cards if they're filled out. Volunteers are going to come and grab them. We're going to pass baskets, put them in the basket. How many people are going to sign up to Text Bank in the next couple of weeks? Oh, that's good. We have a national texting program right now to reach 5 million poor and low wealth voters across some key states, including North Carolina. So thank you for text banking. How many people are going to join the phone banks and call your neighbors? All right, excellent. And how many people are going to get in the streets and knock some doors and go canvass? Oh, this is good. This is amazing. This is amazing. All right, say it with me. If we ever needed to vote, for democracy and justice, we sure do need to vote now. Let's do it one more time while we're collecting pledge cards. If we ever needed to vote, for democracy and justice, we sure do need to vote now. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone who's been doing such incredible work to organize tonight and beyond. We know that tonight is not the end, but is one piece of the work to make sure that folks are getting to the polls and then continuing to build this powerful movement long beyond Election Day. I'm so happy that we could all be together tonight. Miss Yara Allen, would you take us out with some music, please?
Fired up, ready to vote. Fired up, ready to vote. Fired up. I just want to give my personal thanks to all the testifiers. I am always moved by these testimonies, but tonight was something super special and something that I'll carry with me. I want you to stand for this one. And let's give it up one more time for a woman's song. And for the band who joined us tonight. But we're gonna do this one, let's do this one a cappella, all right? And we've been chanting it all night. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Now this is not a plug for me, but that song was born in Stokes County, North Carolina. And the night that I wrote that song, we were listening to testimonies from people who were impacted by coal ash. And folks got up and fought. They fought for their actual lives. And that song has been used over and over and over. And we're singing it tonight because we're in a fight for our lives. And we're in a fight for this young lady's life right here. She told us if we don't vote and she's hurt, it's on us. So we're not gonna have that. You know, we're not gonna have it. All right, so we're gonna sing. I'll sing Somebody's Hurting My Brother, and it's gone on, and you'll respond far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. It's gone on. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. All together, right? We won't be silent anymore. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on. gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. We got that. Did you hear? Somebody's hurting the children, and it's gone on. Yes, it's gone on. I tell you, it's gone on. Oh, somebody's hurting our children, and it's gone on. And we won't be silent anymore. Did you know somebody's taking our health care, and it's gone on? Yes, it's gone on. I tell you, it's gone on. Whoa, somebody's taking our health care, and it's gone on. And we won't be silent anymore. Did you hear? Somebody's stealing our voting rights, and it's gone on. Yes, it's gone on. I tell you, it's gone on. Oh, somebody's stealing our voting rights, and it's gone on. And we won't be silent anymore. Have you heard? Somebody's hurting our families, and it's gone on. Yes, it's gone on. I tell you, it's gone on. Oh, somebody's hurting our families, and it's gone on. And we won't be silent anymore. Come on and keep singing that part right there. And we won't be silent anymore. Come on, keep going, keep going, keep going. And we won't be silent anymore. One more time. And we won't be silent anymore. Forward together. Forward together. Forward together.